Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is savoring, just allowing ourselves to sink into the deliciousness of our experience and the rewards that are available to us through that easy indulgence. And that actually is enriching enough to not be an indulgence. Anyway, good morning, Rosalind. Welcome to everybody else who's joining us. It's great to be here with you this morning. Before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine your lungs filling with this brilliantly clear, bright, fresh air, nourishing and nurturing every cell, every organ. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel all the sensations, the friction, the motion, the temperature, the pressure, and the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all of those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. So today, welcome. We are talking about savoring. And when I think about savoring, I think about taste and the deliciousness of life. And that's what we're really talking about, is to actually go beyond presence to this deliberate act of savoring, which is like a deepening of the experience, a deepening of the sensation, of the appreciation, of the emotion, to elevate it, to revel in it, to celebrate it in its way, to escalate the experience. So often, even when we're mindful, we can be present to something without immersing ourselves more deeply. And I think that there's something very rich about how readily we can feel a greater intensity of life and vibrance and appreciation and gratitude and love, and to be relishing. It's funny that these are all food words, right? Relishing, savoring, deliciousness, to allow ourselves. The word indulgence comes up because when we really steep ourselves in sensation, it can feel like it's an indulgence. The thing is that why not indulge ourselves in sinking more deeply into joy or into gratitude or into appreciation or delight. It's available to us. It's right there all the time. And even if we are experiencing sorrow, we've all heard the phrase, have a good cry. that sometimes being in that experience, I think the savoring of it sort of gives us a meta experience, where we get to step back and appreciate the experience itself and deepen it and embody it. I think that that's actually why all the food words, because when we eat something, we are embodying it. Hopefully, we are digesting it. We are integrating it into our being. That's an interesting way to be thinking about eating and drinking and how we actually consume something and then it becomes part of us. We've also heard the expression, you are what you eat, and in its truth, what we eat then comes into our body and being and metabolizes or doesn't, digests or doesn't, and then becomes a part of us. And so when we savor something, I think we are more deeply embodying it, more deeply metabolizing it, and allowing ourselves to fall into, in the best way, fall into the richness of it, um, to enhance our experience of it. And so often we go through life doing, but not experiencing. It's kind of like going from one thing to the next. Even in presence, we're being present, which gives us more of an experience. When we savor something, there's a rumination, there's a standing back, and it's interesting because at the same time that there's this standing back, there's this deepening into, relaxing into, um, and an appreciation. So I'm wondering, what kinds of moments have you savored? We can actually go look into the past and find memories that we can just delight in. You can almost just taste the sweetness and juiciness of moments. So Rosalind says, if my dog wants to cuddle when I'm not quite ready to sit down, I get down on the floor with him to appreciate him. Well, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. So, to be savoring our time with loved ones, whether they be two-leggeds or four-leggeds, right? Or feathered or whatever, that to be savoring, I think that there's a component of gratitude and appreciation, and to be getting down on the floor with your dog to appreciate him, and just also appreciate those moments. That's where the meta part is, where we stand up back to get in more deeply somehow, to incorporate the experience, to allow ourselves to recognize the specialness. I think that that's it too, is in a way, maybe savoring is sort of a commentary, because we're creating this I want to say action, but it's an internalization really of appreciation for the deliciousness or the bounty. So I was reading something this morning that talked about savoring and how we can savor the past, we can savor the present. Like when you taste something that is just so good, and it just makes it wakes up every cell in your body. that when you take a moment to just do the happy dance, the happy food dance. I don't know if you do that, but I find myself doing that every now and then, where something is just so delicious. Um, that's savoring, to be immersing yourself in the joy and appreciation. And we can savor thoughts about this moment, and the experience of this moment. We can savor memories that are just delicious and delightful. We can savor into the future too, to carry cherished dreams forward into the future. And so this morning, I think I talked to you about, we've been talking about money a bit. And this morning I was continuing with writing my money autobiography that I mentioned the other day, which is a really profound exercise, truly profound exercise. All kinds of things come up in writing about your traumas and triumphs around money, and to be able to savor the lessons. So, I love this. Rosalind said, I found a new bakery and they make a really good chocolate croissant. It's a treat to myself every now and then. Yes, so that's something to savor, where you savor every bite instead of gobbling it down. You just let it melt on your tongue and feel the chocolate melting and feel the textures and just enjoy the deliciousness of it. So Saturday, I went foraging with a friend of mine, and she had already found it. So she took me to this flush of yellow oyster mushrooms. And so we picked it. It was like a pound, this big flush. It was beautiful, of yellow oyster mushrooms. And then we went home and cooked it and savored every bite. It was just so magical and delicious. And I think that maybe taste is one of our most evocative senses, right? When something tastes delicious, it just, you feel it throughout your whole body. So when we allow ourselves, maybe that's part of why the savoring thing is so powerful. If we allow ourselves to savor, kind of to ingest, imbibe, to taste the deliciousness, for instance, of a memory, then we're kind of activating the intensity of the sense of taste, perhaps, that allows us to integrate, digest, embody, all of that. So Rosalind says magical finding, in that little mushroom emoji there, harvesting and savoring in the knowledge of the varietal. Oh my gosh, it was phenomenal. And every part of it just savored the finding of it, which in itself is magical, and harvesting it, and then carrying it and cutting it up. And there was a citrusy smell from it, which was amazing. It had this just beautiful, beautiful light lemon scent, and then sauteing it and seasoning it. And it was just the best. It was the best. And it was so magical and so special. I just kept thanking Mama Earth for this gift. It was just such a phenomenal treat, and delighting in every portion of that process, truly savoring every portion of that process. We can savor movement. We can, if we bring our intelligence to our experience and allow ourselves to be more deeply immersed in that experience and the richness of it, that pays dividends, right? It just lights up every cell in your body. It brings greater vitality. It brings a sense of delight and energy and life. And so maybe you can take a moment to savor something, savor the colors. For me, color is such a delicious experience, to be seeing the flowers that are out now in this spring. Oh my gosh, I went for a walk yesterday and there were beautiful, beautiful irises. And I saw some that were this deep, deep purple, brown, and yellow, or tawny yellow. And it even just remembering those colors and the beautiful fluid line of the petals, and just spectacular, spectacular, and delicious. And when I think that this is actually a new thought as I'm having this conversation with you, that by activating this taste sense, the deliciousness piece, we actually are giving ourselves a chance to embody something more fully, like literally to be integrating it into our bodies and being. It's quite an interesting concept, that's a way for us to be able to integrate experience. So in writing this money autobiography, there were emotions that came up, and at one point it felt like there was this indigestion, and I thought about it, and what I realized is that these were emotions that hadn't been digested, that hadn't been embodied, that hadn't been processed. And we eat to survive. We've all talked about eating our feelings, right? So what if we instead were to be able to savor them? Then that allows us to embody and digest these things perhaps more readily, rather than trying to push them aside. It's like gobbling something up and not allowing our bodies to process it through. Rosalind says, how about the desire to share the experience, to re-experience with someone's first time? Oh, that's kind of a wonderful thing too, right? To share, let's say you've had a wonderful, wonderful experience, and then you get to share it with somebody else and be part of their delight in having that experience. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Generous, and also a way to be enriching ourselves at the same time, right? What a beautiful thought that is, to share something that was such a pleasure with somebody else. That reminds me of years ago. Well, I don't know if you've ever had lychee nuts, lychees, and fresh ones, but they are a very, very remarkable, sensuous fruit if you allow yourself to be present to all the sensations that they offer. So I shared this with someone years ago, and it was such fun because the shell of the lychees, when they're fresh, it's got all these wonderful little, I don't know if they're hexagonal or not, but this little pattern on the whole shell, and the shell peels off, and the shell has a certain roughness to it. And then when you peel it off, there's this pearly translucent white, fleshy inside, and it's fragrant and perfumey, and just the scent of it is so delicate and sweet. And then when you bite into the flesh, it's succulent and silky and juicy. And then in the center is this seed that is hard and smooth and black, and the flesh was white, and all these contrasts and all these different sensations and tastes. The taste is sweet and floral, and it's just a tremendously sensual fruit. And even just remembering that, I'm savoring it. I'm able to savor every part of it, to allow ourselves to be really truly present when we are engaged in our lives. Rosalind says lychee, so tropical tasting and fun to prepare. Yeah, they're amazing. It's an amazing fruit. And I remember the first time that I ate an Asian pear. I think I had a particularly good one. And it had this incredibly delicate, light crunch to it that was a definitive, delicate, light, and definitive crunch, and this tremendous sweetness. And it was just so delicious. And to be able to allow ourselves to re-experience that first time is such a gift, because the delight in that moment is unexpected, right? So there's an apple that I have discovered that is my favorite apple ever. I go back to the farmer's market every week just to buy this apple. And it has such an incredibly delicious, sweet and tart flavor all at once, that hits all the different taste buds, and a crunch that is just so crisp and full-bodied. And I've told so many people about this apple. It's called Gold Rush, and it's just delicious. It is just delicious. And I still savor it. And I notice that sometimes I incline more to eating the apple than to savoring the apple. And I think that just having this conversation is having me invite myself back to savoring, because it is such a treat. It is just so delicious. And we can allow ourselves the gift of savoring pretty much anything, at pretty much any time. And yet we get so caught up in living that we forget to experience. We get so caught up in doing that we forget to experience. We forget to appreciate. And so one of the things that I was able to appreciate in writing the money autobiography is how far I've come. Like how there was all this trauma and all this drama and all this upset in the past, and feeling so blessed to have gotten beyond that and to have created a solid foundation for myself, after so much upheaval and craziness around money in my life, to be able to be in a place where I can savor the achievement, the contrast, to savor the contrast when we have come far, to be able to recognize that and to be able to relish and appreciate and cherish our progress and our wins, and to find delight in that. So there's, it's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. And it's such an easy way to transform our state, to give ourselves permission to savor, to actually maybe even make a practice of it, to periodically take some time to think of something with delight, to feel that delight in your body. It lightens us. It brings light into us, enlightens us, and enriches us. So, one of the things I've been wanting to talk about is wealth, and maybe we'll talk about that later in the week. But there's this richness, this wealth of joy and wonder and delight that we can generate for ourselves pretty much out of nothing. And that's what savoring is. There's a richness to that. There's a wealth in that experience that no one else can touch, that is ours and ours to generate, and is available to us pretty much at any time to elevate our sense of joy and delight and vitality. So that's it for this morning. Cherish, relish, and just savor the moments. Why not? Yeah, it's free. It's there for us at any moment. So that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living Facebook pages. And I so appreciate the opportunity to share these morning musings together. And until next time, so much love to you.